Seems like winter is coming. Press a button. Okay. So we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 26th chapter, text number 24. King Puranjana goes to the forest to hunt is the name of the chapter. Before we begin, we'll chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Verse 24. Tasmin dadhe damam aham tava vira patni yon yatra bushura kulat krita kilbisastam pashyena vita bayam unmuditam trilokyam anyatravai muraripor Itaratra Dashat. Translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. O hero's wife, kindly tell me if someone has offended you. This is King King Puranjana speaking in this dialogue. O hero's wife, kindly tell me if someone has offended you. I am prepared to give such a person punishment as long as he does not belong to the Brahmana caste. But for the servant of Mararipu Krishna, I excuse no one within or beyond these three worlds. No one can freely move after offending you, for I am prepared to punish him. Om Gana Timarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Grave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual master has forced me to open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada's purport to this verse, and it's an interesting change, a sanjam. I'm just going to check and see if the verse before, no, it was still in the same meter. It starts to change. I remember listening to Radhika Raman Prabhu speaking about how the Bhagavatam verses are so poetic that they change when there's a change in the mood of the narration. Then often the Bhagavatam uses different meters for the various verses. So at this stage, we're using that meter. It was, I don't know the technical terms, but there was a meter before that, and then it goes in text 23 to this meter that we've just used to chant the Brahmasa meter, that meter, same. So there's a shift in the dialogue. Okay. Purport. According to Vedic civilization, a Brahmana, or one who is properly qualified to understand the absolute truth, that is, one belonging to the most intelligent social order, as well as the devotee of Lord Krishna, who is known as Muradvisha, enemy of a demon named Mura, is not subject to the rules and regulations of the state. In other words, upon breaking the laws of the state, everyone can be punished by the government except the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Brahmanas and Vaishnavas never transgress the laws of the state or the laws of nature because they know perfectly well the resultant reactions caused by such law breaking. Even though they may sometimes appear to violate the laws, they are not to be punished by the king. This instruction was given to King Prachinabarishat by Narada Muni. King Puranjana was a representative of King Prachinabarishat, and Narada Muni was reminding King Prachinabarishat of his forefather Maharaj Prithu, who never chastised a Brahmana or a Vaishnava. One's pure intelligence or pure Krishna consciousness becomes polluted by material activities. Pure consciousness can be revived by the process of sacrifice, charity, pious activities, etc. But when one pollutes his Krishna consciousness by offending a Brahmana or a Vaishnava, it is very difficult to revive. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has described the Vaishnav aparad, or offense to a Vaishnav, as the mad elephant offense. Quoted. One should be very careful not to offend a Vaishnava or a Brahmana. Even the great yogi Durvasa was harassed by the Sudarshan Chakra when he offended the Vaishnav Maharaj Ambarish, who was neither a Brahmana nor a sannyasi, but an ordinary householder. Maharaj Ambarish was a Vaishnava, and consequently Durvasa Muni was chastised. The conclusion is that if Krishna consciousness is covered by material sins, one can eliminate the sins simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. It's interesting how Prabhupada says that. So, well, I'll say that again just because it's... The conclusion is that if Krishna consciousness is covered by material sins, one can eliminate the sins simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. But if one pollutes his Krishna consciousness by offending a Brahmana or a Vaishnava, one cannot revive it until one properly atones for the sin by pleasing the offended Vaishnava or Brahmana. This was the course that Durvasa Muni had to follow, for he surrendered unto Maharaj Ambarish. A Vaishnava aparad cannot be atoned for by any means other than by begging the pardon of the offended Vaishnava. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master is forcing me to open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge, offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. So this verse is very instructive to all of us, because we want to become freed from our sins, from the reactions to our sinful deeds. That is definitely the case. And Srila Prabhupada is saying that we can be relieved if one's Krishna consciousness is covered by material sins. One can eliminate the sins simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Now, as I was reading that, there's certainly a quality of that. There are 10 offenses to be avoided in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So one has to avoid those 10 offenses. And just the other day, I was thinking that, well, we try and we feel that we're not overtly breaking the 10 offenses. But after a little more reading and checking Chaitanya Charitamrita, one section of Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Lord Chaitanya is instructing Sanatana Goswami in the Adi Leela, I think it's about chapter 3 or 4, and he's instructing him that one should follow very carefully the process of Krishna consciousness, and one should be very careful not to commit the 10 offenses. So that one of the 10 offenses we know is to not follow the orders of the spiritual master. So the supreme spiritual master is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Krishna himself, And he has instructed us in his Shikshastakam verses that one should consider oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree. One should be ready to give all respects to others and not expect respect for oneself. So these are the instructions of the great spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then I was thinking, oh, yes, am I always thinking that I am lower than the straw on the street? Am I always tolerant like a tree? Am I ready to offer all respects to others and not desire respect to myself? If I'm not in that kind of consciousness, then chances are that my chanting will be offensive, because Krishna wants to hear a certain quality of our chanting. So it has to be saturated with love. We talk about bhakti, this idea of bhakti yoga. So that loving devotion has to become manifest more and more. And in third canto, another place in third canto, Srila Prabhupada speaks at great length about this absolute necessity to develop the qualities of a real Vaishnava before one is able to go back home, back to Godhead. Very clearly, he states one is not able to go back home, back to Godhead without developing the qualifications of a Brahmana Vaishnava, a pure Vaishnava, because here we're hearing in this purport, Srila Prabhupada speaking about both the Brahmana and Vaishnava. And Prachina Bharisat, he is also saying that he is not prepared to chastise a Brahmana belonging to the Brahmana. And the best of Brahmanas is the Vaishnava. So we're in a very wonderful situation, a wonderful position, where we've got the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead via the medium of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So we've got the great opportunity, and recently it's been mentioned that in one lecture, Srila Prabhupada was speaking and saying that at the end of the lecture that we have to become fully Krishna conscious. And the devotees were saying, Prabhupada, that sounds very, very difficult, how we were able to become fully Krishna conscious, to have all these qualities of a Vaishnava and the Brahminical qualities, samudhamas tapaso cham shanti rajabam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says these are the qualities. We have to be peaceful, we have to be tolerant, we have to be religious, we have to, all these different qualities are there. So the devotees were saying, Srila Prabhupada, oh, so then Srila Prabhupada said, it may not be 100%, but it should be 90%. And you could see the devotees were still thinking. And in this way, he gradually reduced the percentage. And then he said, Bas, you have to follow. I can't remember. I think it was got to about 60, 70%. And Prabhupada said, you have to do. Because Krishna also in another place in Bhagavad Gita says that I preserve what they have and I carry what they lack. So again, we're encouraged. Krishna will preserve whatever we can accumulate in this life by our devotional endeavors. Krishna will preserve, and he'll carry what we lack. But I've mentioned many times, Krishna is known as Bhavagrahi Janardhan. He knows the intention of the heart. So if the intention of the heart is honorable and pure, that I want to become Krishna conscious. I was listening to Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, one of his lectures last night, and he was making that point that we may be stumbling on the path, but the intention must be sincere and committed, that we want to develop this a pure devotional service. We're not satisfied with some Mishra Bhakti, Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti. We want pure devotional service. We might be a million miles away from that pure devotional service. And if you have a kind of introspective look, we are such a distance away. But if the intention is there, and it has to be purified repeatedly, constantly purified. That my Lord, I'm such a fallen soul. I'm such a I'm a denizen, what I belong to this earth planet in the Kali Yuga. Manda samandu matayo mandu bhagyu padrita. The qualities are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. We're lazy, we're quarrelsome, we're ready to fight with our shadow, practically. So we're lazy, we can hardly overcome slothfulness and sleep and lazy, quarrelsome, misguided, we're unlucky, and we're more than everything else, we're always disturbed, always disturbed. This is the Kali Yuga that we live in. So, and we sometimes want to curse Krishna, that why is it so difficult to become Krishna conscious? Answer, this is Kali Yuga, and you have been in this material world since time immemorial through the Satya Yuga, where it wasn't very difficult. It was an amazing atmosphere for quickly finishing up this craziness, this idea of separate existence, thinking oneself completely independent, like a foolish child thinks itself to be independent, where at every moment the parents are providing everything and the child can't see it. That's called Maya. The child can't see that mother is cooking while you're running around playing, that all the arrangements have been made, the income is coming in, all the bills are being paid. But the children are not aware of that. They think, I'm independent. I want to do whatever I want to do. So if we can realize that we are in such a fallen condition after many, many births, but then what to do? We can think, wow, this is too difficult. This is too difficult. Enter Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kali Yuga. He is the covered avatar. But Bhagavatam and many other places in Shastra says that this consciousness can be revived by taking to the process of Krishna consciousness in this age through the Harinam Samkirtan. By the performance of chanting Hare Krishna, one can purify all the inauspiciousness in one's heart. Sorry, I just need, that's gone. Good. So the qualifications may be elusive, but again, magically they can be gathered up if we follow the path in a proper way. So Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva katiranyata. In this age of Kali, there's no other way than the chanting of Hare Krishna. But there has to be a certain quality to that chanting, as we've just heard. Sorry, I just a little distracted, not to worry. There has to be a certain quality to that chanting. Where was I? We were talking about, yes, the qualifications that are required. Yes, so for going back home, back to Godhead, we require to develop the qualities, and Krishna will preserve what we have and he will carry what we lack. And in this way, we can become inspired because, as I'm trying to point out, we don't have much qualification. Sorry, there's a bit of banging and stuff going on at home, but such is the way. I'm very sound sensitive, my other half tells me, and it's very true. I'm just hoping that she'll come back and close that other door in a few moments. So where are we going? Gee. Okay, to focus. That shows always disturbed. I talked about that. Yes, we're always disturbed in the Kali Yuga. That above everything. So everything disturbs. So going then, if we can, for the servant. My mind is totally distracted. I'm very sorry for that. It's going, I wish that, yeah, because I know there's going to be another bang and a clang and a clunk, and then gradually we'll get back to a little bit of shanti. Okay, so we'll just see where we can pick this. Please excuse me, and we'll see if we can pick it up somewhere, because there's so many things that can be mentioned and discussed. So the Brahmanas amongst all the social orders are the highest of the social orders, and they are so much venerated by Vedic culture. And we're not talking about a four, Prabhupada used to say four paisa, three paisa. Paisa, you used to buy a Brahmana thread. And now they might cost you a rupee each or 3 rupees each, who knows, but it used to be 3 paisa. So you can get the Brahmana thread. So that is not actually the kind of Brahmana that we're speaking of, not just in name, and that includes ourselves too. See, as sometimes we may speak in a certain way and we think, oh yes, that's them, it's the non-devotees, or that's those unqualified Brahmanas, and it tends to sort of suggest that we are the qualified Brahmanas. But are we really? We have the opportunity for that, but we should remember to be humble and see ourselves as we're lower than the straw in the street. So, but the actual Paka Brahmana is so elevated. He is not at all interested in any aspect of this material life. We see Sudama Vipra, the Sudama Brahmana in Krishna's pastimes. He wasn't interested in anything for himself, but he went to visit Lord Krishna and spoke on behalf of his wife that there's some, he felt he actually felt he couldn't, he was going to speak, but he couldn't. And he simply wanted to, he was overwhelmed by the love shown to him by Lord Krishna. And he was in ecstasy just to be in that association. But then on his return back, he saw that the Lord, knowing everything, had already given everything that his wife could possibly have thought of and multiplied it 1,000,000 times or 1,000,000 times. And he was wondering whether this is his home, but actually it had been transformed in so many ways. Krishna had given him that great benefit. So the Brahmana is of a special quality. He's not of this world. He is detached. He is able to speak honestly in all circumstances. He's not dependent on anybody else. He is independent, and he may stay somewhere if facility is given, but if the facility becomes compromised in any way, he is ready to leave. He will take, with full faith, he will rely on the mercy of Krishna to protect him, to care for him, and to do with him as the Lord wants. Why? Because aham brahmasmi. He knows I am Brahman. I am spirit. I am nothing to do with this material body. Now, this whole chapter is talking very much about the material body. The consciousness of material existence is spoken in many verses. I was looking yesterday. Pumsastriya maituni bhavam etam tayor mitori dayagrantim ahogriha chetra sutapta vite janesha mohutyam aham mameti. The attraction between male and female, and this is bringing this concept back into the whole chapter. Pardon me. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material life. And under this misconception, one becomes attached to one's body, one's home, one's lands, one's children, one's family, one's wife. In this way, one increases life's illusion and thinks in terms of I and mine. So this is not the Brahmin thinking. Brahminical thinking is quite different. Material thinking is being explained in this whole chapter, that one thinks in terms of I being this body and mine, these different manifestations belong to me. We think that permanently these bodily relationships. We assume that they're permanent, when actually they're not permanent. So the, pardon me, this consciousness then should gradually subside as we progress on the path of Vaishnav culture, culturing the actual qualities of the higher levels of consciousness. Then this absorption and thinking, and therefore conditioning, will gradually subside, where one will be able to see that everything is more or less temporary in this world, from my own body to the extensions of my body through family, through the extensions through wealth and property and all the different attachments for material life. We come into this world with nothing, isn't it? Every child appears in the womb of a mother and comes out into this world with nothing. We appear naked in the world. And we leave the world with the same, with nothing. The bank balance stays, we go. The relatives and friends stay, we go. The house and land stays, we go. But they all go also in due course of time. Prabhupada said, don't think this will not happen to you. You will also get old, you will also succumb to disease, and you will also die. Everyone will die. And we nod and say, yeah, obviously, but we don't think that's going to happen. It's quite amazing how it is. Up until our last breath, we think it will not happen. So the whole Bhagavatam is repeatedly bringing us to this point of seeing how we can be ensnared in so many ways with the illusions of the material world. One can think oneself to be a king, an emperor. One can think oneself to be a queen or the wife of a great husband. One can think himself to be so many things through all the different species of life. Pardon me. And the Brahmanas and the Brahmana Vaishnavas, through the cultivation of this understanding by careful study, scrutinizingly studying. That's the process. One process is Sankhya Yoga, is counting, analyzing. When you count something, you're making very clear, you're getting clear, this is this, this is that. So the Bhagavatam speaks in so many ways about analyzing what is the existential situation that we find ourselves in, poor or rich, honored or dishonored, whatever the dualities may be, in lower planets, in middle planets, and higher planets. The whole thing, Abrahamabu Vinaloka Purna Avartino Arjuna, from the highest planet in this world down to the lowest planet, all are places where Dukalayam Shashvatam, it's all going on. It may be gold handcuffs that you're chained by, or it may be iron handcuffs, but chained we are to this repeated birth and death, up and down, round and round, until finally they used to use the example, the penny drops. Anyway, it used to be, technology shifts and people go, what does that mean, penny drop? Anyway, it used to be in a machine, penny, anyway, we'd get it. We finally get it. And we have to do that many times, isn't it? For all of us, we've got the message when we decided to join the Hare Krishna movement. Yes, to make such a shift, to go from old ways to the new way of Krishna consciousness, to go from old habits of eating and sleeping and mating and defending to a whole complete new way of life. We must have got the message. But what happens is that we have to keep that light alive. We have to keep it burning and fan that light. Otherwise, it will go out. And then we think, oh, this is too hard. I thought the light was on and I was all excited about Krishna consciousness. And I'm sure many of you are. We hope that that's, again, Nishta, we have to come to that platform of beyond anatta navriti to Nishta, where it's fixed and there's no fluctuation. It's going from Nishta onto Ashakti and attachment and developing actual love for Krishna and deep love and pure love, ultimately prema Krishna. So that is the direction we're heading in. And in order to go further, we have to keep the light on. Nityam Bhakya, isn't it? The acharyas, it's very clear that the meaning is Nitya means eternally, constantly, all the time. And it has been, to help us means regularly. You hear Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. We have to regularly hear the Bhagavatam. Regularly actually means all the time. But we, in our conditioned state, it's not possible so much, although we're really good at it. We try very hard. You're going to the bathroom, you might take your device that you can hear about Krishna. You can listen to lectures, you can hear discourses, you can hear songs reminding you of Krishna. So we try 24 hours a day to fill our lives with Krishna. Because if we don't fill our life with Krishna, we fill it with darkness. The darkness floods in. That's the way it is. We're pushing back the darkness, and then if we don't keep pushing it back, it comes back in and closes up, and we're covered again. And give that example often to Sunday feast guests. You can be speaking, and I'm sure you've had that experience. You can be speaking to them, and you're putting the light on, and the person, you can tell if we're conscious, we'll see that the person is, how they're receiving it. If they're drifting out, it means we're not connecting. But if they're there with you, you can see that they're getting enlightenment, and you can see ping, 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 all the lights are going on for them. But then we can say, don't worry, or something for you to think about is you might get some realizations by our discussion about Krishna in the process of Krishna conscious life and the futility of material life. So we're going on like that. But what is going to happen is that you're going to leave the loft or the temple or wherever we may be speaking, wherever we may be. We're going to go our own way, and everything else in the material world is going to flood back in. You have to get to work, or you have to go home. You have to do this. You have to do that, and we get smothered or drowned in this Maya Shakti. And it's, somebody says to you, oh, do you remember what you were talking about with that devotee? It's like, oh yeah, they were saying something about another state of consciousness. Yeah, it sounded, and you've lost it. That's why Srila Prabhupada said, what is the use of your 3-minute lecture or talk? He said, you should make sure people get a book, because that they can take with them. And then when they become forgetful and they forget what, yeah, I thought this was good, they can read the book. And when they read the book, again, the light is on. Tamasi mai Jyotirgama, come from the darkness to the light. And when the light's on, we keep putting it on. So that is Sadhu Sangha. That's the association of the Vaishnavas. That in that association, we don't come together just to talk about how the pizza was or how the trip to the beach was and how the kids are going. That's offer the pizza to Krishna, the trip to the beach, have a little kirtan. With the children, always we're trying to engage in some activities that they become attracted and inspired to be part of Krishna consciousness. Yeah, but we have to be conscious like that so that we can do it. So I better check time. We're okay. It's okay. So there was a beautiful verse I was looking through last night at some of the prior verses, and I wrote that it was a key verse, I thought, and amongst all the verses, naturally, there's so many verses dealing with the attraction between male and female, between the king and his queen, between the queen and her husband, the king. So it's very elaborately discussed how captivating Maya is in her various forms. And then in text number, I think I've written 13. Text number 13. I'll just look at it now. Prabhupada speaks about the blind. It's a very famous quotation that Prabhupada is famous for. The blind and the lame uniting and working together. So see if I can find it. Sorry, excuse me. 426. 426. 13. I hope this is the right one. Yes. I thought it was a very, yeah, it is. The translation. After taking his dinner and having his thirst and hunger satisfied, King Puranjana felt some joy within his heart. Instead of being elevated to a higher consciousness, he became captivated by Cupid and was moved by a desire to find his wife who kept him satisfied in his household life. And Prabhupada's purport to this verse is very instructive. I'm going to read it. Purport. This verse is very significant for those desiring to elevate themselves to a higher level of Krishna consciousness. This relates to this Brahmin and Vaishnava. When a person is initiated by a spiritual master, he changes his habits and does not eat undesirable eatables or engage in the eating of meat, the drinking of liquor, illicit sex, or gambling. Sattvika ara, sattvika ahara, foodstuffs in the mode of goodness, are described in the Shastras as wheat and rice, vegetables, fruits, milk, sugar, and milk products. Simple food like rice, dal, chapatis, vegetables, milk, and sugar constitute a balanced diet. But sometimes it is found that an initiated person in the name of prasad eats very luxurious foodstuffs. Due to his past sinful life, he becomes attracted by Cupid and eats good food voraciously. It is clearly visible that when a neophyte in Krishna consciousness eats too much, he falls down. Instead of being elevated to pure Krishna consciousness, he becomes attracted by Cupid. The so-called brahmachari becomes agitated by woman, and the vanaprastha may again become captivated into having sex with his wife, or he may begin to search out another wife. Due to some sentiment, he may give up his own wife and come into the association of devotees and the spiritual master, but due to his past sinful life, he cannot stay. Instead of being elevated to Krishna consciousness, he falls down, being attracted by Cupid. I hope I've got the right verse. I didn't remember. I think I've written down the wrong verse. That wasn't. It's the one. Hold on. Let me see what have I written there. Text 13. That's what I've written. Text 13. Dang, I wonder if I've got it. Please forgive me here. It's all nectar, but I think I might have got the wrong verse. We'll take it as Krishna's direction that we're meant to hear this today. I'll read more because it's very interesting. The fall of the neophyte devotee from the path of Krishna consciousness down to mature life is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam by Narada Muni 1.5.17. This indicates that although a neophyte devotee may fall down from the path of Krishna consciousness due to his immaturity, his service to Krishna never goes in vain. However, a person who remains steadfast in his family duty or so-called social or family obligation, but does not take to Krishna consciousness, receives no profit at all. One who comes to Krishna consciousness must be very cautious and refrain from prohibited activities as defined by Rupa Goswami's Upadesh Amrita. Achahara prayasas cha prajalpaniya magraha jana sangas chaloyam cha sadbir bhakti vinashiti. A neophyte devotee should neither eat too much nor collect too much money more than necessary. Eating too much or collecting too much is called achahara. For such Achahara, one must endeavor very much. This is called prayasa. Superficially, one may show himself to be very much faithful to the rules and regulations, but at the same time not be fixed in the regulative principles. This is called niyamagraha. By mixing with undesirable persons or janasanga, one becomes tainted with lust and greed and falls down from the path of devotional service. So that wasn't the verse, but it does all tie in. The verse that I was looking for in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about the difference between the West and the East, India and the West. So he's speaking about the blindness of the West. People are blind, and this purport also shows how difficult it is in such a polluted atmosphere to develop and maintain Krishna consciousness. So for the Western habitat, we require the vision of the pure souls who are able to give this knowledge. But so in that way, the West is blind, and India is the source of all spiritual understanding and is described to be have the vision to instruct and guide the proper execution of human form of life. But it has a great difficulty, or it had a great difficulty back in the 50s, 60s, and beyond that for a long, long time. It's been exploited by foreign domination. And they took all the wealth, but missed the real wealth. That's another whole discussion. But the real wealth of India is the spiritual knowledge, not just the jewels and the wonderful fruits and the amazing spices and all the wonderful things of India. But the real wealth was the spiritual knowledge. But because they were blind by material desire, they couldn't see that that was the real wealth. And they subjugated the real Vedic culture and didn't get what they really would have got the most benefit from, which is spiritual knowledge. So Prabhupada was encouraging, because when one is too poor, it becomes a very difficult thing. And then we find India, instead of following the ancient culture, decided to go into industrialization in an attempt to make one's existential situation better, and so-called material advancement. But the material advancement comes around and kicks you from the behind. That's the way it works. It appears as though it's all very wonderful, but it's not so wonderful. Prabhupada in another place said that, he was speaking, I think, in the US, and he was saying that we first thought that this is like heaven, going to the West, smooth roads, skyscraper buildings, beautiful cars, and all the rest of the amenities. But he said, now that we're all here, everyone has got their PR and we're all here, we know what kind of heaven this is. It is a hell, another version of hell, a polished version of hell. So Prabhupada was encouraging then that the lame country of India, who is not materially advanced but has the vision, if they are able to take the help of the West in a way which would give them the ability to ameliorate the poverty-stricken condition, then together they can work. And the example is there of the lame man and the blind man. And if the blind man is carries the, I always get it mixed up, but you get the idea. So if the person who can walk is able to carry the person who cannot walk, then we can use the vision and the walking propensity and combinedly do things. Now, India has to watch its situation again. See, there's always danger at every step. It looks like the perfect situation. We can say, well, India now is not poverty-stricken. We're becoming a major power in the world. Whoopee-doo. And again, we'll make the mistake. No, don't make the mistake and become even more enamored by this idea of Western civilization. It will destroy everything finally, completely. It won't be the Mughals that destroyed it or the British that will destroy it. It will be self-destruction if we become totally absorbed in this way. So we've got this going on. It's like a paradox. We've got devotees coming more and more in India, and at the same time we have this race for material advancement. So we should be busy and encouraging the Indian people. Yes, it's good that we're making advancements so that things are not so difficult materially, but don't forget that the real purpose of life is the spiritual advancement. So going together, those things can go well together. So I could go into all sorts of other areas. I'll make sure if it was in. Yeah. So I'll just finish with a last little point. I was listening to a lecture yesterday. They were speaking about Narad. So we know that this whole chapter is being described by Narada Muni, King Prachinabhari. He's given the allegorical story of Paranjana, the one who is embodied in all the difficulty. And Narad means Narayan or Krishna, ultimately the origin of Lord Narayan, Krishna or Narayan. Narada, the one who delivers, who gives Krishna to everyone. So that is Narad's purpose. He's speaking in a way, choosing the right way to speak at a certain time. He understood that King Prachinabhari would not find it easy to understand by directly confronting him with his situation. So he's given this allegorical story so that he can gain some information about his real purpose in life. So we're all faced with this challenge, whether we're the king of the world, the emperor, whether we're poor or rich, beautiful or not so beautiful, married, unmarried, many children, no children, one child, whatever situation we find ourselves in this country or that, we're all in the same position. We're trying to, if we're on this path, we're trying to extricate ourselves in a way, and that is the great science of devotional service, how to learn how to eat the right amount, as we heard in one of the verses, how to treat your wife in a proper way where she feels inspired and loved and cared for, but that you don't become a dancing dog in the hands of your wife, which isn't a great idea because the both of us will dance and tra-la-la and off to hell we'll go. We have to, both for the men and especially in this modern time, whether the man is Prabhupada speaks of this elaborately, the man is by nature the leader of the family. In most cases, it's still the case if we can help it flourish. That's another whole discussion. So whoever we are, whether we're in a woman's body or a man's body, if we can learn how to function, which isn't so easy. We'll always be challenged. Arjuna was challenged, and we are challenged by our situation, whatever we're facing. But if we can keep working to develop these qualities of Brahminical culture, we understand from ignorance, we come to passion, from passion to goodness. So the Brahminical level is in goodness, and gradually as we can cultivate those qualities of the mode of goodness, we can gradually come to Suddha Sattva, pure goodness, where it's completely connected with and absorbed in Krishna through pure love. Then we will have attained the perfection of our human life. So I'll end there. We have a few minutes if anyone would like to reflect anything that you've heard in this kind of turbulent sort of look at the subject matter. If you get any reflections or if you do have a question, we will see if there's any answers that may come. Hare Krishna. So I'll just pause for a minute or half a minute. See if
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for the wonderful class. Prabhuji, I just have one question. In the pulpit, Prabhupada mentions that our pure intelligence or pure Krishna consciousness becomes polluted by material activities. And then he continues that he mentions that pure consciousness can be revived by the process of sacrifice, charity, pious activities, etc.
Yes.
My question is, when Prabhupada mentions one's pure intelligence or pure Krishna consciousness becomes polluted by material activities,
Yes.
is the reference to material activities one's occupational job, like the work that one may be doing in one's career? Is that, I mean, I know that we dovetail our career with Krishna consciousness by donating to the temple and other activities, but in other sense, can, when Prabhupada is mentioning this material activities, can the material activity also be a 9 to 5 job that's just sort of taking us away from Krishna because we're not sort of directly connected with the Lord?
Thank you very much for the question. It's a nice question. I'm reminded we were reading some letters, Srila Prabhupada's letters last week or so, and he was speaking to his disciples in the letters going back and forward. And he was so much in this letter that I remember, he was so much encouraging his devotees that for pushing on this movement, we require funds. At that time, Prabhupada was looking at what was the best way to push on the movement. So he said, for any endeavor, you need intelligence and you need finance. You need some income to pay a rent or to pay for a printing press and so on and so forth. So he was encouraging the devotees do something to generate some income. So it's very much required. And the art is how to be engaged in quote unquote material activities, say, one's profession may not be directly connected. Ideally, and that was also another thing, Prabhupada, they started the incense. When I first joined the movement, I first was asked to work at Spiritual Sky. It was an incense company, and it had all over the world. There was Spiritual Sky in Europe. This began in America. There was Australia, and different places in the world. They had Spiritual Sky, and that was very nice because we were able to be with devotees all day. We'd go there and we'd sit and listen to Krishna book tapes all day. It was going as we were packing incense and making up orders and stuff like that. So it's a very nice environment. So that's something. It hasn't been so successfully repeated over the years. It's a great, I know His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, when he was with us, he was so much wanting to do that. He made quite a number of endeavors in that way to try and bring some kind of a business that would be a franchise, which could be repeated for the devotees so that they could work together. Very, very wonderful idea. The more that can be done, then very powerful. You see that in other religions also, they do like that. And they gain great strength in the fellowship of working with fellow practitioners. But that being said, I just thought I'd give a plug for that. So if you can manage to do something like that, that would be a great service, and Srila Prabhupada would be very happy. Not that we have business simply to become rich and wealthy, not like that really, because and that's okay too. If you become rich and wealthy, then utilize it all in Krishna's service. Work with the temples, work with the preaching endeavors, and somehow help to finance them. Now, so it's always a challenge. I've over the years interacted and spoken with many devotees on this kind of subject. Sometimes it's hard to see the connection when you're working very hard to bring some income, and the tendency is to feel it's separate. It's separate. This is just mundane, so I've got to get some money. But the more we can try and see it and dovetail it as something that's offered by Krishna, that this is giving some facility for me to maintain my family, and in this way donate to temple or engage in some preaching activities utilizing that wealth. So it's very important for the Grihastha to be directly connected or to give in charity. Giving in charity is the dharma of the Grihastha. So the charity can be for direct preaching, or it can be like that. So again, it's a big subject matter, and I don't even know if I've answered your question very well. Could you give me some response there and say a little more if you feel that I've not quite touched on what you wanted to hear?
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. So no, that was a nice answer. I was just thinking that it's just really related to myself, really. I mean, I work from home and I'm an engineering consultant, but I find that I'm not thinking of Krishna while I'm doing my work. Like, so if I'll be doing work or, talking to clients and things like that.
Yes.
So I'm just thinking, and then also when I used to work for another company outside.
Can I pause you there? My just to answer to respond to what you said, because it's really I'll lose it if I don't use it. I'll just give you an example. Surabi Swami at the time was in charge of the building of the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan. And he complained to Srila Prabhupada. He said, Srila Prabhupada, I'm here in Vrindavan. He said, I can't think of Krishna. All I think about is concrete. All I think about is steel. I'm constantly absorbed in that, and I'm not thinking of Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada said, this is your samadhi. So you think, oh gosh, that's pretty mundane. No, Prabhupada said that have that consciousness. This is that anyway, it's a big subject. That was an example. Then going on, this is me speaking. Now we have to learn the art. We have to learn the art of being Krishna conscious. Like right now, we hopefully are a little Krishna conscious. We're discussing this subject matter. We're trying, so that's Krishna conscious. And then just like, so you may be chanting Hare Krishna, then you go to work, or you're not going to work, you're at home. Now it's time to start the phone calls and start the writing and computer work and stuff. So you go into that with a good Krishna consciousness, and then we have to become absorbed in the work. You can't be a brain surgeon, for example, and be thinking, oh, Krishna, Hare Krishna. You have to focus completely. So in a similar way, whatever our activity is, we have to focus to do the very best job. And as soon as we come out of that samadhi, the full absorption in doing the best job, then you have the opportunity. What do? Do I pick up Krishna or do I pick up Maya? Do I just drift along in the stuff? And so we have to learn, practice the art of doing the job very carefully. And any chance you get, try to remember Krishna. And in that way, we go in and out of different types of Krishna samadhi, if that makes sense. So, pardon me. So it's a challenge. And again, Arjuna had his challenge. It wasn't an easy thing for him to go on and fight. He had to actually kill his grandfather and relatives and friends and so on. So we're in good company. We're with Arjuna and great souls. Many persons of the past became perfected by this process. Ato vai kavayo nityam bhaktim paramaya muda. And there's many other verses. So thank you for allowing me to pause you. Please, we're going over time, but please forgive me.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Now you've answered the question that I had very nicely. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to hearing from you again. So I think we're going to finish there because I know we have a time schedule. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to being with you again soon. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nantakoda Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
His Grace Jaya Sila Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Vancha Kalpatarobhyasya Kripa Sindhu Pitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnava Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Hare Krishna.